When I heard that an ancient site that is connected to one of my favorite stories in the Bible was on ISIS's list for destruction, I was really discouraged. When I found out about what was discovered after the destruction took place, I was really encouraged. When I was determined to see with my own two eyes the archeological evidence that matched the biblical message, I was ecstatic and made my way to Nineveh in biblical Iraq. I should probably mention that this entire Biblical Iraq Unpacked series was inspired by the story of Jonah. While I was doing research for a teaching series we produced called A Deep Dive Bible Study into the Book of Jonah, I stumbled across an astounding story about an archaeological site that was discovered as a direct result of the ISIS terror tirade that took place in Biblical Iraq. Okay, real quick, take a look at this.
In June 2014, ISIS occupied Mosul. 1 month later, on July 24th, they obliterated Jonah's shrine. And archaeologists' worst fears were realized.
Years to build, but 1 minute to destroy.
It was terrible, of course. Terrible for people, terrible for antiquities.
This was to demonstrate their power over the landscape and also their effort to rewrite history. With Nebi Yunus, it's particularly troubling because it isn't just that smashing, it isn't just the explosion of Nebi Yunus. It's that after they came in with earth-moving equipment and they wiped it clean.
But in a twist of fate, the obliteration of Nebi Yunus wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter that could finally reveal the true story behind the biblical tale of Jonah and the whale.
It is rather ironic that you see ISIL trying apparently to destroy the ancient culture, but in fact they have revealed a bit more of what really interests us.
2.5 years after the shrine's destruction, ISIS retreats from Mosul, leaving archaeologists free to examine the ruins more closely. Beneath what was once Jonah's shrine, they make a shocking discovery. A labyrinth of tunnels leading to a strange subterranean landscape.
After the liberation of east of Mosul, the army and some of the archaeologists went up there and they found they had dug 4 tunnels. Each tunnel, when you get inside, it will be divided into many tunnels.
ISIS dug these tunnels deep into the mound in search of buried treasure.
The looters were looking for the things which are easy to be carried. The things which they cannot carry it, they left it behind.
The remaining objects open a window onto a lost world. A world of brutality, debauchery, and decadence, where Jonah himself may have preached.
Every day I was in Iraq, I kept asking about how I could visit the site called Nebi Yunus, the traditional site of the tomb of Jonah the prophet. In 2014, ISIS blew up the mosque that was built upon the site of the tomb. The problem was that the site was walled off with security personnel guarding a locked gate. There was just no way to sneak into this site, even if I was adventurous enough to try. Which, contrary to popular belief, I am not that adventurous or that, let's just stick with adventurous. However, I convinced my guide to let me grab a cab with one of the translators to travel across the Tigris River to make my best attempt at talking my way into the site. The Tigris River that runs through Mosul was an important boundary for ISIS when they took over the city. They held the western side longer than the eastern side. The bridges in Mosul were key places for battle when the Iraqi army, with U.S. support, fought to drive ISIS out of Mosul. Let's take a quick look at a 1-minute report of when this bridge was taken back.
The Iraqi army has seized the Al Hurriya bridge, a spokesperson reports, in the latest push to retake Mosul from ISIL. It's the second bridge to be captured in the city. Al Hurriya leads to the ISIL-held Old City from the south. In total, 5 bridges cross the Tigris River, which splits Mosul in two. All have been destroyed, but it's hoped their capture and repair will help the US-backed Iraqi forces drive out the jihadists, who took control of the northern city in 2014. Mosul is the militants' last major stronghold in the country. A successful mission would wipe out the Iraqi wing of ISIL's self-declared caliphate. Eastern Mosul was retaken by government forces in January. The offensive to seize districts in the west began 2 weeks ago.
It was a really strange feeling to be in the location where ISIS ruled the city for over 3 years. The night before my visit to Nabi Yunus, I went out for a meet and greet of the locals at an outdoor gathering spot. Only men were out and about. There were no women or children anywhere on the streets. We ate a delicacy that looked like pizza that had meat and an egg on it, but no sauce. I was able to gather quite a bit of information about what it was like living in Mosul during ISIS by just sitting down, eating sort of pizza, and drinking tea. Pretty soon, the locals wandered over to take pictures with me and to talk. I chose to walk back to my hotel, which was on the other side of the bridge over the Tigris River. I stopped to give a little perspective in the middle of the bridge about what I learned that night.
I'm taking a late night walk in Mosul, and I've come to the Tigris River. The left side and the right side. Those that lived on the left side were a little bit, might I say, luckier than those that lived on the right side. It got a whole lot tougher for folks on the right side, because when the Iraqi army arrived, they pushed ISIL from the left side over to the right side. And as I say, on the right side, it got even worse.
When I saw the sign that said Nabi Yunus, my heart started to beat quite a bit faster. When we arrived, we were confronted with a locked gate and a soldier who was not in the mood to make an exception for an American with broken Arabic. He made it crystal clear to my translator that nobody can enter the site that ISIS blew up, that the Iraqi Antiquities Authority is restoring. Nobody. At that point, my heart sank. But then my translator called my guide, who called someone in Mosul, who called the soldier and said, "Let the American into the site." The next thing I knew, I was on my way. Unfortunately, there was one condition for my entry, and that was that I could not use my trusty camera. However, I was able to see everything in detail. It was absolutely amazing to be looking at the entrance of an ancient Assyrian palace that Jonah himself may have seen. There were 2 colossal lamassu that were side by side. These humongous half-man, half-beast stone statues were there to send the message of strength, protection, and devotion to these deities. I could hardly believe I was standing where ISIS attempted to destroy history, but their plan backfired, and instead they revealed it. The lamassu I was looking at were placed at the entrance of the palace of Esarhaddon, who is mentioned in the Bible. Take a look at 2 Kings 19:37, Ezra 4:2, and Isaiah 37:38. Oh, and Esarhaddon's father was King Sennacherib, who also is mentioned in the Bible. He looms large in 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and Isaiah. More on him later. But now do you understand my excitement? Let's take a quick trip back to the Iraq Museum in Baghdad, where I had an opportunity to take a picture in front of a statue that was similar to what I was not allowed to take a picture of at the Nabi Yunus site. These huge human-headed winged bulls are called lamassu. This is one of a pair that stood in front of an Assyrian palace, similar to Esarhaddon's palace, that was buried under the tomb of Jonah. The ones I saw are in their original location from over 2,500 years ago inside the ancient city of Nineveh. Just a month after I was in Nineveh, French archaeologists discovered a 2,700-year-old lamassu in Khorsabad, 20 miles from Nineveh. If only I would have known, I would have begged my guide to get me there too. Take a look at this short report.
A winged lamassu sculpture has been discovered in northern Iraq. This mythical creature, part bull, part eagle, and once with the head of a man, was unearthed by a team of archaeologists. The 2,700-year-old relic was found perfectly preserved underground in the modern-day village of Khorsabad. Locals here buried the monument before fleeing the region during the Islamic State occupation. These ancient alabaster creations once guarded the gates of ancient cities across the Neo-Assyrian Empire, but many were destroyed by militants. The head of the sculpture is on display at the Iraq Museum in Baghdad.
As I was in the Iraq Museum, I stood in front of the missing head that was recovered from smugglers who were trying to sell it on the black market. After my awesome visit, I was able to talk to the director of the entire project, who agreed to talk to me on camera, but only outside that locked gate. Take a listen.
I am here with Jamal. Now, inside of this gate is Nebi Yunus, the most important archaeological site ever, and my guide is also an archaeologist.
Yes.
We came here, the gate was locked. We
Yes.
couldn't get in.
Yes.
They made a phone call.
Yes.
The police opened the gate,
Yes.
and we have Jamal, the boss of the whole project,
Yes.
right here. Jamal, thank you.
He's saying thank you. شكرا.
And what are you hoping to do? What do you want to do? Ask me.
هيقول لك انه ايش تأمل انه تعمل بالنبي يونس.
والله ان شاء الله ننجزه باقرب وقت.
ان شاء الله they will complete it as soon as possible.
Now ISIS blew it up,
Yes.
but Jamal is seeing the building of this place.
Yes.
Jamal, how's it
يقول
going?
انه داعش دمروها وهسه جمال يحرص انه يرجع البناء.
ان شاء الله.
ان شاء الله.
Inshallah, which
Inshallah.
means if the God wills.
If the God wills it.
Yes. I want to thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Shukran.
I am so happy. 2 years? 2 years. In 2 years, Jamal
Inshallah.
will complete the whole thing.
Yes.
And we will come back
Inshallah.
and celebrate with him.
ان شاء الله.
I have great news. I was able to enter the crown jewel of archaeological sites in Mosul with my trusty video camera rolling. There was a restored gate that was connected to the original wall of Nineveh that ISIS also blew up. The Iraq Antiquities Authority is in the process of excavating and rebuilding the gate and walls. I'm calling the next Biblical Iraq Unpacked episode, The Resurrection of Nineveh. I lost count of how many significant artifacts were discovered on the grounds of Nineveh, and some of them are even still there. For those who are interested in the dark truth about why ISIS dug tunnels under Jonah's tomb, I was able to visit another really important site with my trusty camera that explains the who, what, when, where, why, and how ISIS chose to destroy so many archaeological sites inside Iraq. You should realize now that the only way I can take you behind their curtain of archaeological terror is in the Iraq Unpacked Plus Sensitive Events series, right? I'm calling the episode The Archaeology of ISIS. You see what I mean? You really don't want to miss this one. Click the Bible Beyond Borders banner on the front page of bfainternational.com and become an Academy Premium Content Library member to access the entire Iraq Unpacked Plus Sensitive Events series and so much more. I almost forgot to tell you, inside the Academy, we have an entire series on Jonah that received rave reviews and is available free right now at bfainternational.com. Okay, my friends, now we're cooking with oil, so let's keep unpacking Biblical Iraq. Our next episode of our Biblical Iraq Unpacked series connects Biblical Iraq and ancient Israel, called The Resurrection of Nineveh. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe in order to keep this party going.